Hello everyone, welcome to Salesforce Unlocked. Today we are going to start our Apex programming series. So if you're going to start your Salesforce journey as a developer, this course will help you build a strong foundation in Apex programming and Salesforce development concept. So let's begin by understanding what you will be learning throughout this series. So the course objective is to help you understand how Apex works and how it is used to build custom business logic on the Salesforce platform. It includes Apex language overview, which means it's a it gives a brief overview of how Apex works and what kind of custom development can be done using the Apex. Then we will cover about platform architecture, like what kind of architecture Salesforce follows and how it runs on Salesforce server. So this is about the platform architecture. The next step in this course is about the development lifecycle. So Salesforce development lifecycle has many phases. So we will go through like how project goes through each of these phases and how a structured development process helps ensure quality and maintainability. And the next objective is about learning the best practices and about the roadmap to follow for Salesforce developers. So as you learn Apex, you will need to follow certain best practices such as writing clean code and readable code, avoiding SOQL and DML operations inside the loop, creating reusable components, writing unit test for every use case, every scenario feature like that. So these are some of the best practices you need to follow. And about the roadmap, we will start with the Apex fundamentals, then we will move to advanced Apex features like triggers, asynchronous Apex integration, and finally design patterns. So this is all about the Apex fundamental and introduction and agenda that we will be covering throughout this series. So I hope this helps. Hello everyone. In this slide, I will be covering what is Apex and why we need to learn Apex. So Apex is a Salesforce proprietary programming language. It is a strongly type object-oriented language, which is similar to Java in terms of syntax and structure. So being strongly typed means every variable must have a defined data type, which helps reduce errors and improves code readability. The next point in the slide is about it runs on the Salesforce platform, which is one of the biggest advantage. As Salesforce developer, we don't need to manage any server, database, or infrastructure. So Salesforce take care of the problem, allowing us to focus on only building business solutions. The next point is about custom business logic. So while Salesforce provide many declarative tools such as flows, validation rule, approval process, some of the business requirements are too complex for any configuration. So that's where Apex comes in, and using the Apex, we can create custom business logic, custom calculation tailored to our organizational needs. The next point is about the automation and integration. So Apex is widely used for automation and system integration. So for example, we can automatically update records, send notification, process a large volume of data, or connect a Salesforce org with external application through APIs. So Apex handles all this, and it's a very powerful tool which extends the Salesforce capability. It is a high skill, yeah, it is a high demand skill. So learning Apex is one of the sought after skills in Salesforce ecosystem. So most Salesforce developers, technical consultant, architect require a strong understanding of Apex programming. So learning Apex not only helps you build a better solution, but it also opens uh, exciting opportunities in the Salesforce ecosystem. Hello everyone, in this slide I will be covering about Apex runtime environment and transaction. So now that we understand what Apex is, let's learn how Apex code actually runs inside the Salesforce. So the first point in the slide is about the multi-tenant architecture. So Salesforce uses a multi-tenant architecture, which means multiple organizations share the same infrastructure while keeping their data secure and isolated. So think of it like an apartment building where multiple families lives in separate apartment but share the same building resource. So because resources are shared, Salesforce must also ensure that no single organization consume excessive system resource. So that's where transaction boundaries comes in. So whenever Apex code executes, Salesforce creates a transaction. A transaction is a single unit of work that contains all the operations performed during that execution. So, for example, when a user creates account record uh, triggers a update to related records, all those actions occur within the same transaction. So this is about transaction boundaries. The next point is about the order of execution. So Salesforce follows a predefined execution order where records are saved. This includes like running of validation rule before trigger, record save after trigger, some workflow and automation, and finally doing a commit to database. So understanding the order of execution helps developer avoid unexpected behavior and debugging issues. The next point is about commit and rollbacks. So at the end of every successful transaction, Salesforce commits all changes to the database. However, if any error occurs during that transaction, Salesforce performs a rollback, meaning that all changes are reverted or reversed. This ensures that data consistency and prevents partial updates. The next topic is about the governor limit. So, since Salesforce is a shared multi-tenant environment, it enforces governor limits to control the resource usage. So, example includes like limits on the SOQL queries, DML operations, CPU execution time, heap size. So, these are some of the examples where governor limits comes in. So as Apex developer, we must write efficient and bulkified code to stay within this limit. This slide, I will be covering about Salesforce developer tools. So now that we understand how Apex executes within the Salesforce, let's look at the tools developers use to write, test, debug, and deploy Apex code. So the first one in the list is the developer console. So Developer Console is a browser-based development tool built directly into the Salesforce. It allows developers to write and execute Apex code, run SOQL queries, view debug log, test the triggers and classes. So it's a great tool for learning Apex and performing quick development tasks. The next is advanced tool. Advanced editor is called Visual Studio Code with Salesforce extension. So today most Salesforce developer use VS Code as their primary development environment. So with Salesforce extensions installed, VS Code provides some additional features like syntax highlighting, code completion, Apex debugging, source tracking, and some deployment capabilities as well. So it is a much better development experience compared to the developer console. The next one in the list is the Salesforce CLI. So it's a Salesforce command line interface, which is a powerful tool that allows developer to interact with Salesforce from the terminal. You can use the CLI to authenticate the org, retrieve metadata, deploy your code, or to run the test, or to automate any development task. So it is an essential tool in modern Salesforce development. The next helpful tool is the debug logs. So it helps developers understand what happens behind the scenes when the Apex code execute. So most of the time by reviewing the logs, you can track code execution, identify the errors, monitor the governor limits, troubleshoot any performance issues. So it is one of the most important skills for Salesforce developer to learn debugging, which can be achieved by observing and learning more about the debug logs. The next one in the list is the deployment workflows. So once a development is complete, code must be deployed to a higher environment. So a typical deployment process includes development in sandbox, then testing and validation of the features and functionality which is developed, then source control management, uh, where we need to author our code into a version control repository like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, etc. Then comes the final step, which is deployment to production. So deployment is a step where we can deploy components from Salesforce to higher orgs using chain sets or using any CI/CD pipeline. So following a structured deployment workflow helps ensure a reliable and error-free releases. So this was all about the Salesforce development tools. I hope this helps.
Thanks for watching Salesforce Unlocked. If you found this helpful, stay tuned for more Salesforce tips and tutorials. See you in the next video.